coming up on this episode of the Women's Leadership Mindset Series podcast.
So what I've come to discover is achievement is a great slave, but it is a terrible identity. Part of achievement is never living in the present. Never. You are always focusing ahead. You're always going, what is the next goal? What is the next thing that I have to achieve? As though your worth is attached to achievement. And so a lot of high achieving women suffer from low self-esteem, from low self-worth. And even when things are going really well, even in money, even when we are making multiple 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, we can be rich but not have a rich life experience. We can have money in the bank and still lack self-worth. We can have money in the bank and still go to bed worried every single night or wake up worried every single morning. And in that, completely disregarding the wealth that is available to us.
Welcome, leaders, to the Women's Leadership Mindset Series presented by TK Page Enterprises. My name is Teresa Page, and I am your host and looking forward to spending these next few moments with all of you. We have a lot of work to get done on today, but first, allow me to invite you to connect with me by subscribing to my website and to connect and follow me on LinkedIn, YouTube, and other social media platforms. And always feel free to contact me directly via email or by booking an appointment. So what is our goal? Well, as an author, speaker, coach, and mentor, my mission is to help professional women renew their leadership mindset with fresh fire and purpose through diverse mediums of leadership empowerment solutions and the My Journey to Wholeness book series. However, the Women's Leadership Mindset Series is a new initiative intended to spotlight powerful women leaders and how they serve the world through their professions and purpose. So with a goal to help women realize their unfulfilled dreams and re-energize the leaders they always were, this platform is designed to enhance, empower, educate, equalize, and even emancipate, as our featured guests share their entrepreneurial stories, provide viable resources, and guidance in a caring, professional, and impactful manner. So, let's get down to business. Well, all right, in today's video, it is my pleasure to welcome to my virtual stage, Elle Nagy, Rich Life Advisor, founder, and author of Elle Nagy Coaching Limited of Ahoka, Canterbury, New Zealand. Elle is known for helping ambitious women shift from effort-based achievement into embodied feminine creation, where life becomes easier, richer, far more fun, and the results that matter most expand naturally. With 2 decades of experience guiding women through profound personal and professional transitions, Elle has become a trusted voice on identity architecture, nervous system recalibration, and embodied self-leadership. Rather than teaching women to strive harder or reinvent themselves, she challenges the belief that lasting change comes from doing more. Her work invites women to recalibrate the identity they are creating from, allowing success, fulfillment, and meaningful impact to emerge naturally. Elle is the author of Mastering Self-Leadership and the Artist State and the creator of Woman Imagined, a transformational experience for ambitious women who have mastered achievement and are ready to make their lived experience the masterpiece. Her conversations blend psychology, practical wisdom, spirituality, and lived experience, offering audiences fresh perspectives that are both deeply thought-provoking and immediately actionable. Whether speaking on podcasts from the stage or working privately with clients, Elle is known for warm, insightful conversations, that challenge conventional thinking, inspire courageous self-leadership, and remind women that the richest life is created not through more effort, but through becoming fully aligned with who they truly are. So to connect with Elle, you may contact her on her website at ellenaj.com. You may also email her via elle@ellenaj.com. You may also connect with her on social media via LinkedIn at Elle-Naj, Instagram at Elle_Naj, on Facebook at Elle Nagy, as well as on YouTube at Elle Nagy, and also find out about her books, Mastering Self-Leadership and The Artist's State, both found on Amazon. So we'll bring back all of this information along with Elle's complimentary gift before we go. But first, I want to say welcome, Naj. Welcome, Elle. Elle Naj. How are you?
Teresa, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, and thank you for having me here today. You know, it can only be a good day when two women come together for a rich conversation, and laughter and just expansion. So it's a beautiful day.
Absolutely. I am just so excited. The reason why I'm so excited is because I'm in one day and you're already ahead in another because you're in New Zealand. So I'm just really excited about that. It always stokes that you're already in my future, even though we're here together.
And that's what I love about that. You know, it really made me rethink the concept of time, because whenever I get on a call with somebody, I'm in their future and they're in my past, but we are both in the present. So we can collapse the idea of time and understanding that everything only exists in the present, whether we want to term it as the future or the past. Only the present is what's in existence.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm just so excited about our conversation. I absolutely loved our one-on-one. And so I'm just really excited about what's ahead. So we're going to get into it. But first, I need to give a shout out to the lovely CEO and founder of Author in 30, Leslie Capps in Laramie, Wyoming, for making this connection between the two of us. So she's awesome. You're awesome. I'm glad that we're here on today. So let's go ahead and get down to business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself beyond the bio?
Beyond the bio. Well, I'm a woman who wakes up in gratitude every single morning. A woman who have lived a full life of both contrast and love, joy, sadness. I've had so many beautiful experiences that has led me to this moment. And one of the things that I've come to discover on my journey is that truly this experience of life is all that we have. You know, we are so conditioned to focus on achievement and what we are accomplishing or what we are creating. But for the most part, we have lost touch with how we are experiencing the creation of whatever it is that we focused upon. And so for a large part of my life, I was in a state of suffering. And I see suffering as when we judge anything as negative. So I would look at my life, and no matter what I accomplished, whether it was I got silver medals in provincial colors for cycling in my cities. I became an Ironman in my 40s. Like, no matter how much I achieved, I always judged myself negatively for not having achieved more. And so I was always in a constant state of suffering. It was only when I started realizing, well, through the grace of losing everything that I thought was important to me, that I realized that the richness and the pleasure is to be found in the moment when we stop judging the moment and we stop judging ourselves negatively, anything about ourselves, and start really saturating ourselves in the essence of the now. And so it's with great delight that I now live a life where I can truly say every single touch point of my life I find beauty in. Even in the contrast, I find gratitude, because I know the contrast creates desire of the opposite, and that desire is already available to me. And so I have created a life where I've come from South Africa to living in New Zealand, was in a toxic marriage. Now I am in the most divine partnership with a man. And between us, we have 4 boys, ages 15 to 26. We have 2 Shih Tzu puppies that, quite frankly, have got us wrapped around their little tails, and we will do just about anything for. I have found a calmer and a more beautiful partnership with my body and fitness, and the beauty of the body, and in partnering with her. And I can, for the first time in my life, say I'm truly happy and blessed. Yeah.
Well, I absolutely love that, Elle, and I like the way that you kind of laid out your life experience and about waking up every morning in a place of gratitude. It was a couple of things that you made mention about, even with listing all of the things that you're grateful for, that sadness is also was a part of that gratitude, as well as that suffering, that state of suffering that you mentioned, which was the place where you felt like you needed to achieve more, especially after you've achieved such great big things. With you working with high achieving women, if you don't mind taking us into this space with some of the work, and we're going to get into the work, but I just want you to take a moment right here with you working with high achieving, ambitious women, where the badge of honor is what you achieve, is with the accolades, the honors, and the awards. In an effort to help women to achieve that rich life, this rich, beautiful life, how do you knock this out of high achieving, ambitious women to separate themselves from the achievement to live a richer life? How do you do that? Because oftentimes with high achievement, with high ambition, when we think of the word rich, we think about it from an economic point of view, which that can be connected to the economy, and with achievement, we know those work hand in hand. But how do you take women out of that space, this want to want more of richness that is set apart? So how do you knock that off of high achieving, ambitious women?
I had to discover that high achiever is an archetype. It's an identity that we were all conditioned into believing is the epitome of a successful woman. However, it is also based in fear consciousness. So as a high achiever, we struggle with that sense of never being good enough, of never having enough, of never getting there, of never knowing enough. We struggle with things like imposter syndrome, all of these experiences that we have normalized in our culture and even wear as a badge of honor now. Oh, I have imposter syndrome. Oh, it's okay, sister, we've got your back. Well, why are we accepting all of these things when there is something so much better available for us? So what I've come to discover is achievement is a great slave, but it is a terrible identity. Part of achievement is never living in the present. Never. You are always focusing ahead. You're always going, what is the next goal? What is the next thing that I have to achieve? As though your worth is attached to achievement. And so a lot of high achieving women suffer from low self-esteem, from low self-worth. And even when things are going really well, even in money, even when we are making multiple 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, we can be rich but not have a rich life experience. We can have money in the bank and still lack self-worth. We can have money in the bank and still go to bed worried every single night or wake up worried every single morning. And in that, completely disregarding the wealth that is available to us. So when I start working with high achieving women, first of all, they must want more themselves. I can't make anybody want anything. But most of the women who come to me go, there must be more to life than this. You know, on the outside, everybody admires me. Everybody is like, oh my God, you've got it all together. Look at you. Look at what you're achieving. And there's a sense of loneliness because people distance themselves from you when they put you on a pedestal. And there's a lot of pressure on a woman on a pedestal. And let me tell you, no woman wants to be on a pedestal. So when we have this separation from other people because of our achievement, people start saying it's lonely at the top. Well, it's only lonely at the top because you're not playing with the other giants and because you believe the illusion of separation, when in fact we are all one. We are all connected. Whatever I'm experiencing is available for everybody else to experience and vice versa. So when we can stop living in the future and in the past, and we can start living in the present with absolute knowing of who we are, what we are, our worth as a woman, our worth as an individual, not dependent on anything external of us, then we can start breathing again. And then instead of chasing the next thing or wanting to make the next thing happen, we can start intentionally creating our life experiences, not just the outcome, but how we actually want to experience the creative process. So I talk about the artist archetype. And as the artist, you are both the creator and the creation. So the work is within. The work is you. And as you own that again, as you self-create, then life adjusts around you. And you start seeing things that have always been there, but you've never noticed. You started hearing conversations differently. You start feeling people differently. You stop feeling lonely because every human that you meet is just a miracle and a mirror and a connection to source. And life just becomes truly wonderful, and everything else falls into place. It has to, by law, because that is where you are then calibrated to. And so I just love watching women go through this journey of, trying to learn the next thing and then only to discover, no, it's not about learning the next thing. It's just about remembering who I am and reclaiming myself. And then life falls into place for me.
I love that. And I love the way that you said that life falls into place by law. I love the way that it has no choice but to do that when you make these decisions. And this, what you just explained is really actually direct connection with the work that you do with Women Reimagined. Is that correct? The transformational experience. So you just kind of gave us a little bit of insight there. But now that we're talking about that, Women Reimagined, if you could take us maybe broaden a little bit more on your explanation and how your work falls into Woman Reimagined. Tell us a little bit about that, and we're going to get into the business in a little bit later, but tell us a little bit about Woman Imagined since we're already on that plane right now.
Absolutely. One of the things I discovered is as high achieving women, we become lone wolves. So high achieving women tend to want to work privately. They tend to want to, do all this stuff. But that is not where our power as women lie. Our power lies in collaboration. Our power lies in connection. That is one of our greatest gifts in this life. So when I discovered or created Women Reimagined, I immediately knew that this had to be a space where women can finally have a new conversation about what sisterhood is really all about. And the only way we could do that was by healing the deep feminine wounds that exist at the moment. The feminine wounds of distrust, the feminine wounds of disconnection with our bodies. So the journey that I take women on is, first of all, we start with remembering who we are. And this is the deep spiritual work that we start with. Because at the end of the day, when we forget that we are a human and a human being, human and spirit, we get stuck in the human experience, which is laced with tribal conditioning. This is why we are operating on fear consciousness. So once we have opened up that gate, we use archetypes, and there are 8 archetypes that I use to support women in recognizing the conditioning in their thinking through archetypal work that is fear consciousness, and what is the corresponding empowered consciousness archetypes. So we make this really, really practical for the ladies, because when you start hearing the actual words that the archetypes say, every time you say it, you're going to go, oh, I'm being such a prostitute right now, which nobody wants to be, but we are conditioned to be prostitutes, children, victims, and high achievers. Those are the main conditionings in our society at the moment. So when you go through a journey of, and I give the ladies a process where they can ascend through alchemy from fear consciousness into empowered consciousness. When you go through that process and you then start seeing how the process relates to everything that we create, because there's a specific order of the archetypes which is directly related to how we create everything in our lives, it becomes fun and it becomes a game. So all of a sudden, creation is not this thing that we have to think about all of the time. You know, that is all masculine, and that is part of the problem, is we are thinking things to death, but we have forgotten to embody work by actually living it. So a big part of this work is the embodiment piece for women. There is a whole section that we do just on the body, because we have got so many wounds around our bodies as women. We think it's a project that we have to manage. I think especially as Gen X women, you know, we grew up in the skinny generation time. And then all of a sudden, the body acceptance movement came in. Then we hit menopause and we went straight back into shaming our bodies. So the body piece, if you are rejecting your body, you cannot have a rich life experience, because you are literally rejecting your human self. So we reframe that and have you romance your body and fall in love with your body. And when you do this in a group of women and you get to share that, it's just beautiful to see how your sisters celebrate your body as well. And from there, we work through every part of your life, reimagining what it can be like and creating the identity of you living your greatest life as your grandest self. So Women Reimagined is really a homecoming. It is coming home to the truth of who you were always meant to be, who you were born to be, and from there you get to create your life way more intentionally in an experience that feels delicious. Yeah.
That the way you said it's a homecoming to yourself. I really love that. And so for those who are listening in the audience that might need this type of homecoming, how do they connect with the Woman Reimagined? How do they get a chance to be a part of this experience?
Absolutely. We open up enrollment 3 times a year. So if you go onto my website, you'll find the Women Reimagined tab over there. And if it's not open at the time of you listening to this, there is a waiting list that you can get your name onto. And if it is open for enrollment, you can either just go ahead and enroll, or you can book a conversation with me, and we can ensure that this is the best next step for you. Because I also want women to realize this is not a magic pill. This is not like all the other coaching programs that you have done. I am not interested in you learning more stuff. I am only interested in embodying your own transformation. So it is a journey of self-discovery more than anything else. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're going to make sure we get that into the bio so the audience will know how to partake in the open enrollment when that comes back around. Leaders, thank you for listening to this episode of the Women's Leadership Mindset series. I would like to take a moment to share a special announcement with you. Listen, we're living in extraordinary times, and it's up to us, the people, the leaders, the entrepreneurs, and the like, to tap into our ingenuity, to revive confidence and sound leadership, to produce goods and services that will bring relief to the challenges hitting our nations, to reduce unemployment rates exacerbated by the dismantling of DEI or the rise of AI, and to revitalize the global economy by leveling up the generation of wealth among the general population. But before we can confront these systematic matters head on, we must be reminded of the mandate and who we are as natural-born leaders, and that leadership is not something to do or dictate, but an expressed demonstration of love. Therefore, I am excited to introduce Love the Success Factor Leadership Incubator. This is a premium transformational leadership development designed to elevate the leadership authority, innovation, and cultural impact of your organization's senior and emerging leaders. So if your organization is ready to take the lid off your leaders' capacity to affect change within our communities, domain of industry, and global economy, I invite you to see the bio to request a consultation. For now is the time to lead differently and to lead with love. Now, back to our episode. So let's go ahead. We talked about Woman Reimagined. So let's get into the business. Let's get into the business of Elle Nagy Coaching Limited. Tell us a little bit more about about the business. What was your motivation? And we know that you like to work with high-achieving, ambitious women, but maybe kind of break down the persona of the type of clients that you like to work with. So take us inside of Elle Nagy Coaching Limited.
So coaching found me more than the other way around. And this is 20 years ago. I think it will be good for people to understand how I even came into this line of work. So I come from a psychology background, and then life blessed me with suicidal depression. And I was put on medication. I was sent for therapy, and quite frankly, it just didn't work for me. And instead of persevering through all the pain, I remember sitting in my car one day and just praying and saying, God, I can't do this. I can't come to one more session. You have got to show me another way. And on the way home, I drove past a kickboxing dojo, and I went in. The owner was there. I signed up, never went back to therapy, stopped all my medication, and was out of depression. And I thought, wow, okay, there is more to this than meets the eye. There is a correlation here between me moving my body and my state of being. So I signed up for an energy healing course because I wanted to understand how does this movement of energy in the body work, only to be called 2 hours before the first lecture and said, we're so sorry, but we have had to cancel this course, but there is a life coaching course starting tonight, and you are welcome to participate. It's the same investment amount and see if you love it. Now, 20 years ago, nobody heard of life coaching, especially not in South Africa. So I had no idea what I was in for. But I went and I fell in love with it. I just fell in love with this profession and the belief in the magnificence of humans and always facing forward, setting the next goal, believing in the potential and seeing dreams come true. So that set me on the course of coaching. And I have been so blessed over the past 20 years of working with the most incredible men and women across the globe in really pinpointing those deep desires that most people tell them is impossible, or the things that they have almost put on the shelf because that's too big or too much, or who do I think I am, and to dust those off and then to support them in seeing themselves as the person living that life and realizing those dreams. So one of the things that I've come to discover, and the reason that I focused today on women was because that was one of my greatest wounds to heal, the wounds between women and women. So I've traditionally loved working with men. Then again, I was so in my masculine. I was a high achiever. I was kick-ass. I was Iron Man. I was all the things. So, for me, that masculine energy was just fantastic until life brought me to feminine energy. And I had to reharmonize my masculine and my feminine. So the people that I work with today, I still work with a select few men, those who are brave enough to walk into a women's domain and say, okay, I'm ready for my greatness. But the women that I work with are the ones who are at that state in life where they are ready to see that the impossible stands for I'm possible. That anything that they desire is not only theirs for the living, but it is their absolute duty to live it because they have created it. They have already created it in the energetic realm. And the only piece that's missing for them is the identity piece. So, as high achievers, we stick with the same identity and work really hard in order for us to achieve the goal. But the identity never changes. With my work, we create the identity first and then allow the process to unfold in a way that feels really good. So my ideal ladies are the ones who are curious, the ones that are willing to see things different, the ones who are more devoted to being happy than being right, which is a big one for high achievers. We are all about how people perceive us. So if you're not willing to look the fool a little bit, if you're not willing to go, oh, okay, no, I wasn't right about that. And I still do that to this day. I love proving myself wrong. I love it. So if you are curious and you want to have fun and you are ready to have a really rich life, not because of what it looks like to other people, but for how it feels to you, then you're probably the woman that I want to talk to.
Well, that's pretty awesome, Elle. There was something that you mentioned that I want us to explore a little bit to help us to understand a little bit better. You mentioned that and before your life coaching that you were a very high achiever. You worked with men and different things like that. You was a go-getter and all of those kind of things. And I noticed that you aligned that with masculine energy. I know that we are living in a time right now in our culture where it seems like that women are accused of that, especially if they're still independent. They're still having to, sometimes they may not be married, and they're still having to be able to create their own life. And whether it's from a career point of view, economy, all those other kind of things, the kind of woman that already has her own home, already her life is set up and different things like that. So she is a leader in her own right. And I think in a lot of ways that, women that may either, whether they're in a leadership position or just, just operating in that leadership space, that oftentimes it can either be intimidating to men, and then we could be falsely accused of having what is known as masculine energy. I do want us to, I want you to maybe break down a little bit further, because we as women, we are natural born leaders. We have, that's just a part of our makeup. I don't think it's a coat that we have to put on. I think it's just something that it is innate, that we are as equal leaders as our male counterparts. In a time that we're living in today, and I'm structuring this question, in the time that we're living in today, especially here in the United States, it seems to be a concerted effort, for whatever reason, to take women backwards. Here we are, we're in the 21st century, and it appears to be that there's this concerted effort, whether it's from the government space, this rise of Christian nationalism, and in addition to a lot of things that it has manifested as far as the dismantling of the EI, which has put a lot of women back out into the job market. We know that there's been an overturning of Roe v. Wade, which now criminalizes women as far as concerning the autonomy of their own body, withholding certain health care provisions. And there is real conversation in different pockets of our country that's trying to take, that believes that women don't need to vote. So even taking away a woman's right to be able to vote. So in a lot of ways, you're now talking about that women are this far into the 21st century are struggling with their economic security, their career security, maintaining what they may have already accumulated in their lives at the risk of losing, now can possibly be criminalized about decisions concerning their own bodies, and even being able to take away their voice in our geopolitical spaces. And I'm trying to bundle all of this up. So if we as women, how do we navigate this space where we can still be ambitious, we can still be high achieving, we can still learn how to be economically sufficient, make sound decisions, that we're more than capable of making sound decisions about our lives, about our bodies, as well as who we want to represent us, even in our political spaces? How do we walk this line then, without us appearing to be this, or in this space of masculinity, or taking on masculine energy, or being accused of being in a masculine space, especially when there are concerted efforts, not only here in the States, but in other parts of the world where women's rights are being trampled on at this particular point. So how do we as women walk this line as the leaders, innate leaders that we are, without being accused of having this, what is known as masculine energy? And I know that was a little long, but I hope you're able to pull us out of that, and help those who are listening that might be enduring some of these experiences to not pull back as a woman, but to lean further into their womanhood and their natural innate abilities.
Beautiful question. Abilities. Yeah, thank you, Teresa. I think that we need to start with the understanding that there is masculine and feminine energy in all of us. We all have both masculine and feminine energy. Now, there is also healthy masculinity and toxic masculinity, as there is healthy feminine energy and toxic feminine energy. When we are operating as high achievers, what we find is that we are not operating necessarily in healthy masculine energy, because we are solely relying on masculine energy to get stuff done. It's a very driven energy. There needs to be motivation. You can just feel the energy is from competition and survival and dog dog, right? So when we come from that energy, that is when we need to start paying attention. If you're achieving because of your sense of worth, you're in the negative aspect of masculine energy. However, if you are a woman who is feeling very secure in herself, a woman who truly loves herself, a woman who is playing in creation and therefore achieving, that is your feminine energy, is who you are being. But you still need to use masculine energy to execute, because the masculine is the doing. Feminine is being who you are being, masculine is doing. So you're always going to want to have masculine energy as well, because what I see often is that women pendulum swing and they go all into feminine energy and they just want to sit around and meditate and eat bonbons and think that, oh, this is going to create the life of my dreams. No, honey, you still get to get off your bottom and take action in the real world, because that is how we came to create. We came to co-create, yes, with universal source energy, but also with other humans. And in order for us to co-create, action is involved. So we don't want to throw masculine out of the park. We just want to start becoming aware of, where on the masculine energy am I operating from? If I'm operating from fear, if I'm operating from shame, if I'm operating from a lack of worth, we want to pause and do the inner work first to go, okay, who am I being in this moment right now? And is this the woman that I want to be? Because if it's not who I want to be right now, if I'm coming across as too domineering, if I'm coming across as ball busting, if I'm coming across as, I have to assert myself on people, probably not your greatest version self. But when you are coming from your greatest version self, the feminine being, then absolutely you're going to have masculine conversations as well. You're going to take masculine energy. So when I say I was operating dominantly in masculine, I was not in healthy masculine. It came from a deep lack of self-worth. It came from I have to prove myself. I have to outwork everybody. I can run away from my pain by doing more. The hustle culture, right? So I just want everybody to be very clear. There is no all feminine or all masculine. That is not healthy. I always talk about we have to reharmonize feminine and masculine. Now, with everything that is happening in the world, first, I'm going to say, and this is probably not going to land well for many people, but I saw this coming. I saw this coming because the feminine movement, or the feminist movement, was pushing so hard. And whatever we push against, we strengthen. So when we think of resistance training, the greater the resistance we use in the weights that we are using, the stronger our muscles become, the bigger our muscles become. So what happens is that desire was born for equality, which of course we are all equal. I think that's one of the greatest lies of our time, is that there is something called inequality. It's an illusion that keeps people hypnotized and focused on the lie, thereby creating the lie in the grandest form or in the biggest form. But so we've experienced inequality in this world. And so the feminist movement was born and they pushed against that. And so as we push, progress is made. Things start coming right. We start seeing our desires come to life. However, the issue that we have is what they were pushing against became stronger and stronger. And it hit a critical point and now it's being pushed back again. And this is why things move backwards and forwards when we have a look at human society. It's because instead of being focused on what we want, we focus on what we don't want. We focus on the resistance and therefore creating an equal and greater strength in the opposite of that which we are resisting. And then it gets pushed back again. And in the pushback, the feminist desire becomes stronger again. And again, we will see this pushing back. So what if instead of focusing on everything that is wrong, that is happening at the moment, we as women start collaborating in creating within consciousness the rich vision of what it is that we actually desire, and we focus on that. Because what you will also find is if we release the resistance, whatever has been pushing against us falls flat. Like, because there's no resistance to hold it up anymore. But in order for that to happen, we as women really need to start coming together and go, okay, I have created this beautiful life. I love this beautiful life. How do we start collaborating to increase this beautiful life for more and more women? Don't focus on what the toxic masculine is doing, because in the focus of that, we are only strengthening it. But when we as women start coming together and having different conversations, that's when things are going to really start changing. You know, even the independence, we were raised that we should pride ourselves as independent women, strong independent women. There's two issues with that. Strong becomes brittle because strong is rigid. Powerful is fluid. So we don't want to be strong women. We want to be powerful women. And the second part is independence. Independence still comes from fear. Our greatest power lies in interdependence. When we start understanding that we are all part of a huge puzzle and every person is an important piece in that puzzle, and how do we start co-creating a more beautiful tapestry by linking arms, by co-creating, instead of being afraid and therefore thinking I have to be independent because then I am safe. Are you though? Because from what I'm seeing, independence breeds vulnerability. And so I think the conversation that we as women need to start having is, girls, what is the picture in consciousness that we are creating next? We've experienced enough contrast, and we've experienced enough of what happens when we push against the contrast. But what was born in it because of the contrast? And how do we bring more and more women to focus on that so that we can create that? And then, well, this toxic masculine doesn't have anything to push against, so it will become weak. It will become like the wave crashing on the sand because there's nothing to push against anymore. Does that answer the question?
It does, Elle, and I greatly appreciate you taking time to kind of talk, to share the difference, whether healthy or toxic versus interdependence and independence, and powerful versus, strong, and being able to, and I like the way that you kind of laid out that resistance piece, because, oftentimes I have found, because the question is, if we can ever step out, especially the women that I have the opportunity to speak with, the concern is, because there are so many women that's been pushed out into the job market as a result of certain dismantling of certain things and, certain rights like that, there's a genuine fear about what do we do next? What do we do next? And there's a fear that somehow our geopolitical structures will somehow change, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I know that as for me, I can't speak for everyone else, but as for me, I've come to a resolve that I can't help what's going on around me. It is what it is. Go on and do what you're going to do and do it quickly. That's how I feel about it. But my thing is that what I do feel, both men and women who might be caught up in the hairs of all of this, is that we do have to figure out another way of being able to create our own economy, figure out another way, whether it's to start a business or things like that. And it does take that collaboration, that how do we figure out another way so that even though it appears that maybe our governmental structures might be robbing us blind and trying to take the money and run, regardless, we still have to be able to live day to day and to be all right and still be able to create our own wealth, to create this rich life that's not just surrounded by wealth, but making sure that all of your basic needs are taken care of. And also the things that you absolutely desire, like you talked about a little earlier, dusting off your dreams, being able to finally lean into the things that I actually truly, truly want. As for me in my own heart, the things that I honestly and truly want, I cannot buy. It doesn't matter, I can't spend money to get the things that I truly want, which is love, which is family, which is, all of those other kind of things. And so I love the way that you have kind of laid that out for us so sweetly and in a way that it can be received. And that's how I see things. That's how I really want to. That's why with my platforms, whether it's with this podcast or in other platforms, to be able to create a space so that other leaders, other entrepreneurs, other authors, I can shine a light on them. So introduce them maybe to another audience or connect them to another person or whatever. No one is my competition. I feel like because of that, I can be somebody else's champion for their dream. Even if I can't help them directly on anything that I have to offer, I can connect them to Elle that's way over there in New Zealand. Or I can connect them to a Leslie Capps that's way over there in Wyoming, and the same way, and that's how we met, is because of that collaboration and that willingness to collaborate so that we can help us to be greater and bigger people. So I want to say thank you so much for giving us some kind of setting the record straight for us and understanding that, even as men and women, somehow we need to get on one accord because none of this works. Our earth cannot work. The well-being of our earth and the well-being of life, it cannot work until we get on one accord. And once everybody finds their own place and gets settled in that and understand we're not each other's competition, that we're actually here to complement one another. So I want to just say thank you. Thank you so much for giving us some insight there. Okay, so we've talked about Woman Reimagined. We talked about your business. You've given us a little bit more insight about how women can still be high achieving, still be ambitious, but without fear, without worrying about competition and all of that, and just settling into her being, and also being able to execute at the same time. So now I want to talk about your books. That's what I want to talk about. And you may have already leaned into it a little bit, but you are author of 2 awesome books, Mastering Self-Leadership as well as The Artist State. So take us behind the scenes, give us a little bit of maybe an overview of each book. What motivated you to write these books? Who are they for? And what is the expected end? What should people walk away with after they come out of these reading experiences within these 2 literary works? So take us behind the curtain with mastering self-leadership as well as the artist state.
Thank you. Yes. Mastering Self-Leadership was written through me during COVID. And I say written through me because I received instruction from my higher self to sit down and start writing. It was in a time when humanity was being shut down by fear. And I came to the realization that for the most part, humans have handed over their power to an unknown authority to make decisions for them. And that there is a severe lack of self-leadership in this world, which comes from a severe lack of self-trust. You know, we are brought up to believe that we are not good, that we are flawed, and that we have to listen to what others have to say because they know better for us than what we know for ourselves. And in that, people have started handing over their autonomy to whoever is in front of them. You know, I even meet people, and I love coaching, but I meet people and I go, you need to become uncoached because you have put so many coaches between yourself and your true self that there is no more self-trust. You've lost connection with your intuition. You've lost connection with your inner wisdom. So I sat down and I was amazed at what was written in Mastering Self-Leadership because I literally just let my hands fly over the keyboard and see what comes out. And I was given 7 keys that if somebody works through these 7 keys, literally they are unlocking parts of the unconscious mind in how they have been operating so that they can fully reclaim autonomy of themselves and can start living from a space of self-leadership. I truly believe as we return to self and each person starts leading self instead of worrying about how we lead everybody else, I always say, I don't need anybody to follow me. I am a leader, but I don't need you to follow me. I want you to walk beside me. I want us to have fun together. Because if we all start leading from love and we focused on how we lead ourselves and let that be enough to inspire people around us, the world will be a better place. But at the moment, what's happening is people have stopped leading themselves and they are expecting other people to make decisions for them and other people to tell them what to do and other people to lead them, or they are told to be leaders to lead others. But as a doing thing instead of a being thing. I'm always intrigued by leadership courses that tell people how to be a good leader. Like, really? You need to be told how to be a good leader? You can't just be a leader and live in complete harmony with your unique leadership blueprints? So we are, stamping leadership onto people like templates. Like, if you follow this template, you're a good leader. According to who? Who decided that for you? So really, this book is to challenge the way that people think of leadership, to challenge the way that people think of themselves. I talk about the masculine and the feminine. I take them on a deep healing journey called the historian's journey, where you literally witness your own life and instead of being focused on the masculine history, the dates, the names, what happened, you focus on her story, the wisdom. Like, what are we learning from this? What have we learned from our own lives? And how do we start living differently based on wisdom instead of just somebody else's story? I challenge the concept empowerment in the book. I was given the concept rempowerment, where we stand in remembrance of somebody's power so that they can empower themselves. For me, that's brilliant leadership. Don't think that you can empower other people. Witness their power and let them self-ignite that empowerment for themselves. So it is a book that I highly recommend you read and then work. There is journaling prompts throughout the book, but it's a bit of a wax in the beginning, like a and so if you try and do the exercises and you haven't read the whole book, the ego part of your brain, the conditioned part of your brain, will resist the exercises because it will go into immense fear and self-preservation. So I always recommend to people, read the whole book, see that you're okay on the other side, and then you can like, oh, okay, I'm not going to die on this, and then go and do the deep introspective work to get the most out of the book. So that is mastering self-leadership. And really that is for any man or woman who wants to stop worrying about what leadership is being said as in society, and who really wants to take full ownership of themselves, reclaim all of the scattered parts of their conscious minds that's been broken off through conditioning, so that they can choose how to lead their own lives. That is really the best way I can describe that book and who that is for. And you will be an exceptional leader of others if you're an exceptional leader of yourself. And this is where we also stop living where, you know, you're a great leader at work, but you don't want to lead at home. No. Either you're a leader or you're not, darling. It's not a coat that you can put on and off. It's an identity. So that is mastering self-leadership. The artist state, I actually wrote because not every woman can afford Women Reimagined, perhaps at this time. And I still wanted to give her something that she can start understanding a little bit more about herself, and how to create a life with the flow of an artist, with the appreciation of an artist. So it's a nice short book that you can sit down, you can read in a session, and then you can go and play with the exercises and the introspection, and you can literally receive transformation on a very deep level, which will potentially get you into the right state so that you can create whatever you need to create to join Women Reimagined or not. But I didn't want any women to be left behind, and that is why I wrote The Artist State. Yeah.
So thank you so much for giving us a little bit of insight on both of these literary works. It sounds like when you were writing Master Self-Leadership during COVID, I was also writing my parts of my leadership incubator, Love the Success Factor, which we may come from different approaches, but the overall goal is the same, is to come back to our first mind of natural born leaders and understanding what does that look like, that is the assignment of the human family, is natural born leadership. And so I come from the perspective of dominion, you come from a different perspective, but I think the common thread is what you mentioned was love, that is how all of that is personified. So thank you so much. And we know that both of these books are found on Amazon, so we're going to make sure that we also get that into the bio so that our listening audience is able to take full advantage of both of these experiences. Well, Elle, I am absolutely enjoying our conversation on the day as we prepare to downshift. One of the staple questions that I love to ask all of my featured guests, you know, I think one of the things that you learned about me during our one-on-one is that I'm passionate about employing love as the ultimate success factor. to renew women's as well as transformational leaders' mindset with fresh fire and purpose. And with that, I believe that the effective power of love is a game changer that gives us an edge to be innovative in business, to be fully present for our teams or our stakeholders or our clients, to be knowledgeable of our industry trends, whether we're in coaching or wherever space that we're operating in our domains of industry, as well as being benevolent in our community service and philanthropy efforts, but above all, powerful in leadership. I believe that love is that game changer. So, with this understanding, can you share with us what kind of leader do you believe that you are, and how has love tangibly shaped you into the leader that you are?
What kind of leader am I? I am a leader of fun. I would say that. I believe life is here to play. I think that when we give ourselves permission to approach life with a playful attitude, everything becomes a little bit more creative. Everything becomes a little bit more daring, and it gives other people permission as well to relax a little bit in my environment and know that you can't fail. We're just playing, and that, whatever form the clay takes, if you don't like the form, you can just mix it with a little bit more water and you can create something else. I think that this has come from years of watching how people can really clench up in their creativity because they're so terrified of failing or of messing up. And so I lead in play, because at the end of the day, I have found that this is actually where we tap into some extraordinary genius talents, and everything just becomes more fun. And like you, my journey to love has been the game changer of my life, more than anything else. I remember particularly one of those turning points in life where I was lying on a field of grass crying and saying, God, I don't understand. What am I not seeing? And I was told, you cannot love and you cannot receive love until you are love. And that set me off on a journey of what on earth is love. And what I have come to discover is love is the frequency, the energy of God, the universe, source, the creator. So when we choose to operate in the frequency of love, we are literally choosing to operate in the frequency of creation and the creator. When we choose to operate from the frequency of love, and a great question is always to ask yourself, what would love do? So when you are stuck in something, what would love do? All becomes possible. And we see from a higher dimension than we would otherwise. So for me, now that I choose to operate in the frequency of love, what I have found is my relationships have deepened with people. I am no longer afraid of being hurt by people. So I can walk in this world with an open heart. I can have compassion for people. Compassion is having empathy whilst taking a stance for truth. So I can have compassion for people. And I can more deeply connect with life and what is possible in life and the beauty of life because of love. And I feel that we are missing that largely in society. Again, we are so, mass consciousness at this moment is operating in fear consciousness. And that is why we are creating an experience of fear. Whereas and it takes a little bit of practice and discipline in the beginning, especially, but the more we choose to operate from love, the easier it becomes, and honestly, the better life becomes. This is where miracles happen all the time anyway. Life is a miracle. If you just think about it, life in itself is a miracle. But when we operate from love, we witness and experience the miracles as they are happening. And that is the secret to a rich life.
Absolutely. And I absolutely love that. So how do you want future generations to take advantage of the work that you are doing today? How do you want future generations to benefit from the work that you're doing today?
I believe a lot of my work is with the older generation, the Gen X, the baby boomers, because we are not done yet. We're not dead yet. We are not done yet. And as we start operating more from love, we are living a better legacy for future generations. I think one of the saddest things is watching Gen X people giving up, of them thinking that their time is gone. You know, it's time to retire now. It's time to go hide in the corner. They're intimidated by the technology. They're intimidated by children. They're intimidated by social media. They're intimidated by so many things. And I'm saying, no, 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 no. This is our most powerful time. Life has prepared us for this time. This is where our legacy is made, because this is how we change the world for future generations. So often people will say, oh, the next generation is doing it so much better. And I think that's a cop-out. We're not done yet. We can still do it better. That's our responsibility. We are the elders of the tribe now. And instead of complaining about ageism and this and that and the next thing, come on, guys, let's put on our big gold panties and actually do the deep inner work to start telling a different story. Let's create a different living legacy whilst we are alive. And that is the way that my work benefits future generations.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that because I'm a Gen Xer. And that is something that's really important to me. And I think that's why I write books a lot, because I want to leave a legacy for the generations for the next 1,000 years and beyond. I want to be able to leave something in the world that will not just support our generation of today, but for outward to the next 1,000 years. And so I think that's really important. And I'm glad that you're doing that work. There may have been someone who has been listening in our conversation, and they may have taken some self-inventory and all of that. And there is a dream career or business that they might need to dust off to reprioritize, and really just start giving some of their time and their effort and their energy, and to take, as you mentioned, those ideas out of that place of being and actually start executing. What tip, what encouragement or resource would you give to someone who they know that there's something else they need to start working on a legacy, and they just haven't taken that leap of faith? What would you give them on today?
Well, first of all, they can download a free PDF copy of The Artist State. I highly recommend that they do that. And I think one of the best things to do is to journal. If you're not journaling, today is the day to start journaling. And a great question to ask yourself is, what do I desire? What do I desire? And ask that question 100 times. And what else do I desire? You see, what I've come to find is most people have given up on their desires, or they are focused on desires that is not even their own. It is conditioned desires. It's shadow desires. And so even though they write it down and they go, oh, I want to build an empire, there is a heaviness in their energy because in their unconscious mind it's going, oh my God, it's going to be so much hard work. I'm not going to have time for my family or myself, and I'm already so old. Then that's not your desire, darling. Like your desires, they light you up. Your desires, they're the things that bring juiciness into your life. And then just ask yourself, who am I as the person already living that desire? How do I think about things? How do I feel about things? What are the conversations that I have? Who am I having those conversations with? Like, start creating that identity avatar for yourself, and then playfully every day, just become her a little bit more in the way that you dress, in the way that you cook, in the way that you move, in the way that you talk, and see how life just starts responding to that. Yeah.
Absolutely love that. And let's talk about the other on the other side of the spectrum, those who have asked themselves the question what they desire, and they've moved in it, they're operating in it, they're living the dream. But they've bumped into, but they might be feeling a bit frustrated if they bumped into a barrier. Your response might be the same, but what would you say to them? They're already they've figured out the juiciness, the lusciousness of life, but they're feeling a bit frustrated and a bit stuck. What would you give to them? What tip? What encouragement? What resource?
The resource would be me, quite frankly. Send me an email, Elle Nagy. And here's the reason I say that. Sometimes when we're in the forest, we can't make the trees from the ground. And so we keep bumping up against something and we don't understand. And so the focus becomes on what we are bumping on. Sometimes it just takes a fresh perspective of somebody else having a different view that can help you to see the forest from the trees. Sometimes. Alternatively, if you don't want to email me, then instead of being focused on the frustration, ask yourself, what is the frustration creating instead? So what is the desire created by the frustrated? And who would I be as the person who's not frustrated? What would I be focused upon? See, a lot of the times it's our obsession about the block that actually creates our experience of the block.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for giving us, educating the audience there. Now, Elle, you have a special gift for our audience on today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So I am gifting a free PDF copy of The Artist State to everybody who is listening today. And my invitation is that you take this little book and you play with it and you see what else becomes possible for you in your life. I am going to say as well, when you're reading it, tilt your head to the side and be willing to see things a different way. Because if you're not willing to see things a different way, you're probably not going to enjoy the book. And the beautiful thing is that by downloading the book, you also come into my world. So you will be receiving my weekly newsletters and resources, videos, all those kinds of things. So it becomes a journey that we take together instead of just the book that you read.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you so much. So you have provided a special link for us. So we're going to make sure that we get this into the bio for our listening audience. And thank you so much. Well, Elle, it has been such an honor. It has been such a pleasure for us to have come into this present space, even though I am in your past and you're in my future. We were able to come together to have this very present and very beautiful and rich conversation on today. So, what are your last words? You have blessed us with so much on today. Well, what are your last words that you would like to leave us with that's going to carry us forward from my today, your tomorrow, and forward?
Absolutely. To everybody listening to this, I want you to remember that you are the artist and the art, and now is your time to make your life a masterpiece.
That's wonderful, audience. Do you hear that? Now is the time to make your masterpiece. Well, Elle, thank you so much for joining us on today.
Thank you, Teresa. This has been a wonderful conversation. And thank you to all the listeners for staying all the way through.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to say thank you for joining us. Remember, you can connect with Elle by visiting her website at ellenaj.com. You may also email her at elle@ellenaj.com. And be sure to connect with her on social media via LinkedIn at Elle-Naj, Instagram at Elle_Naj, on Facebook at Elle Nagy, as well as on YouTube at Elle Nagy. And please don't forget to check out both of her books, The Mastering Self Leadership and The Artist State. Both of these books can be found on Amazon, and we're going to put the link in the bio. And please feel free to take advantage of her complimentary gift, The Artist State, a complimentary PDF copy where you can download that, and to access, you can visit ellenaj.kit.com/leadership. Now, leaders, do you have an important story to tell that would inspire others to step into their dream career or business? If so, check the bio to learn more. So we want to say thank you all for joining in for another episode of the Women's Leadership Mindset Series. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, here's to the journey, and let's move forward.